We are here with Daniel Negreanu, one of the most, or might be even the most famous poker player in the world. It seems like you have a never-ending energy for what you're doing. Do you ever get tired of promoting the game and being the portal figure of the poker game?
I don't think I do get tired of it. I think it's just a role that I've kind of fell into, and it feels right to me. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm doing that. So I think there are times, obviously, when I'm trying to play poker and it becomes hectic. But overall, I've become accustomed to balancing playing poker with it. So it's not a problem at all.
You came in the game quite a lot of years ago. You were one of the youngest players. Obviously, that's why you got the name Kid Poker. Now you're one of the veterans. Do you see an ending of your career in the future, or do you plan to be another Doyle or TJ Clothier?
Doyle Brunson's 80 years old. He's still playing in the biggest games in the world and holding his own. And I think one thing that's interesting about Doyle is he's still got his wits about him. And I think one of the reasons for that is because he plays poker. And any doctors will tell you, just by using your mind and continuing to think, it helps you in older age. So with poker, I don't think there's ever a reason to quit. So I plan on playing forever. As maybe I won't play as many tournaments, but I don't see any end, especially anytime soon.
The game has been much harder. Everyone I talk to says about it, the edge getting smaller. How do you do to except playing? How do you do to keep up with the game?
I think there was a point where things seemed to be getting harder, but they're leveling off again. The last 6 months I've noticed kind of like there's a lot more new players coming into the game, and but one of the key things you have to do is anytime there's a new group of players that are doing something new is you have to delve into it and say, well, what are they doing? Why is it working? How do I defend against it? How do they perceive me? And just work on your own game. If you think you have it all figured out, it's over, then you're just going to get passed by forever.
You were one of the early adopters of the low ball poker by a really small bet sizing. Do you think we will see a turnaround in the game that it differs more, or do we reach an end where everybody's min betting?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was one of the few people way back when who was betting small amounts, and people were laughing at me. Well, what we figured out was, especially with shorter stacks, bet sizing makes sense to be smaller. I think the one thing we may see potentially, and again, you never know with poker, is when players are deeper, they may be coming in for larger raises, which already happens to a certain degree. I think you see some of the guys in the first stage, they're making it 4 times the blind, and later these guys are going to be min raisers. So it's all relative to stack size, but overall, in tournament poker, when you're 25, 30 big blinds deep, raising 3 times the blind or whatever, I think that's dinosaur. That's not going to happen again.
You are used to traveling a lot, and it's a bit of a nomadic life. Do you ever get tired of the lifestyle, outside of the tables, I mean?
Yeah, well, definitely when it comes to traveling. A couple of years ago, I did a 2-month trip to Europe. I was with a girl at the time. We were going to travel, but I went to all these different cities and just going from week to week, living in a suitcase in a different hotel and not eating the way that I eat because I'm a vegan. So being at home, I feel healthier. So that's something that I'm committed to not doing anymore because it's too much. 2 months is too long. Frankly, a month is too long. I think my trips at this point, if it's over 2 weeks, it's too long because I need to have some balance in my life.
You talked about the vegan thing. You seem like a guy who thinks a lot about the health issue. Has it always been that kind of guy, or is it something that has growth into you during your career?
Well, I'm lucky my parents... I'll give you an example. When I was younger, my mother made me a lunch every single morning. And as a teenager, I was like, I'd go to McDonald's with my friends and I'd have a lunch and everybody else would be eating McDonald's. And I thought, my parents are so cheap. But what did I not realize at the time was they loved me. They cared about me. They wanted me to eat healthier. And, the other parents were just like, I'm hungover. Give the kid $5 and go to McDonald's. So I appreciate what they did. And it sent me down a path of being health conscious. And I took it a step further and did my own research. And, personally, I believe that, being a vegan allows you to live longer, help avoid heart disease, cancer. I mean, I know everyone's going to die at some point, but I'd like to do everything I can to be as healthy as I can in old age.
How big part of the game is the health thing when you're playing big tournaments? Is it a really important part for staying focused?
I think the biggest change from poker like 20 years ago is that you look at poker players then they're smoking, they're obese, they're drinking while they play, and the players today they're working out, they're in good shape, they're taking it very seriously like athletes. And I also agree that keeping if you're doing exercise, it helps get oxygen to the brain and makes you think better, and you just feel better about yourself. When you feel better about yourself, you're going to play better poker.
You were talking about the traveling. We have seen you in Sweden doing commercials. Will we see you in Sweden playing poker at the casino sometime?
Well, you might see me in Sweden because I just did this like online chat for a website in Sweden, and a couple of the girls there were like, "Hey, I want to marry you." So if the pictures come out right and they look like I'm like, and maybe I'll fly to Sweden to say hello to Sarah and whatever the other girl's name was.
You have a couple of Swedish close friends. You were quite close to William Thorson when he played at Poker Stars. You were close to Lena at Poker Stars, and also Matt Sundin, who was an ex-hockey player and also played for Poker Stars. Is it just coincidences that they are Swedish, or do you have any connections to Sweden?
I don't have any personal connections to Sweden other than like Lena, who's a good friend of mine who works for Aftonbladet. Yeah. She's been a blogger for a long time. And William, I just liked his energy. And also Martin Deniff is a guy who, he's a hockey guy, and Chris Bjorn way back when I used to play with. So just really, and also like, Swedish people are some of the few people that actually I can talk hockey with because they follow the NHL and they know what the game is. Whereas in America, they're like, is the season even happening? They don't care as much.
To be a bit egoistic, one of my favorite hockey team just lost Michael Backlund and Patrick Berglund when the lockout ended now. But obviously it's good for the game. How do you see the rest of the NHL season? Do you think it's good that they sold it, or should they have started for looking at the next season?
No, it's very important that they didn't miss a season. I think 1 full year off at this point would have been just a travesty. I mean, the LA Kings won the cup, which is big because they're a hot market and they're a very good team right now. It would have been a shame to cancel the whole season. What I will say, and you should be wary of, is with a 48-game season, a lot of these guys I know were not in game shape. So a 6-day training camp is not going to be enough. Yeah, goalies specifically, you're going to look at a lot of groin injuries and a lot of guys getting hurt because they're going to cramp the schedule, and these guys are not going to be in shape like they should be.
So do you want to do any predictions about the end of the NHL season? What team will win and what team do you hope win?
Well, I mean, I think, again, because of the injuries, that's going to play the biggest role, is who's hurt and who's healthy. As for who, I haven't really looking too closely into it. I mean, of course, the Kings are, a threat to repeat because actually last season they were like the 8th seed, but I knew the whole season, I'm like, this is crazy. I don't understand why they're not scoring goals. They should be one of the best teams in the league, but they weren't for the first half of the season. So I think they're primed, again, to have another deep run, but I haven't looked too closely. I know for sure that the Toronto Maple Leafs have no chance at all of winning the cup now or maybe forever.
Okay, if we end this by going back to the PCA, the Poker Stars Caribbean Adventure, where we are now, obviously it's a huge field left, and poker is a big part of the luck is involved. But do you have any favorites? You're obviously not left in the field. Do you have any favorites left that you really hope for a bit more than others?
Well, I'll tell you generally my strategy when I get knocked out of a tournament is that tournament doesn't even exist anymore, right? I'm out, so I don't care who wins. It's not me. All I'm focused on is the next side event that I'm playing, and I hope that I do the best I can in that.
Okay, then we end it with the last question. How does the rest of the week look like for you?
Well, I have the $25,000 high roller coming up in a few days, and I plan on playing a few side events. I plan on working out every day, spending some time with friends, and really I came here to play poker. So I'm going to play. I don't normally play a lot of side events, but here at the PCA, the numbers are good, and there's some fun tournaments every day, so I'm going to do that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Daniel.
No worries.